I present to you guys two cars that 95% of the population thinks is the same car. But if you guys watch me, you know they're not. If you're watching this video, you probably know they're not. Or you're watching this video because you don't realize that they're not the same car. And then this video is for you as well. And what this video is, the difference between an E30 and an E34. A head-to-head, a comparison of the 3 Series and the 5 Series of the 90s. I guess you could maybe argue that's a little bit more of the 80s and that's the 90s. 5 Series and 3 Series don't line up, so obviously there's a little discrepancy. But we have my Calypso 525 in 1992 and we have my silver gray 89 325i. These cars have the same engine. That's turboed. That's not. I'm gonna get into everything about these two right now. So I've been feeling bad. I've been kind of lacking on videos. I want to do more videos that are more creative than just me working on the cars. So I filmed this right after I filmed the E30 video. So yes, I'm in the same outfit. I'm not wearing the same shirt every day. It's the same day. I'm trying to bust out videos for you guys today because I got some trips coming up. I want to have content lined up. So where a lot of the discrepancy is that people think this is the same car, to the untrained eye, you see the quad circles, narrow kidney. Alright, so that must be an E30 because everyone knows an E30. If you watch my E30 video, you know that I talk about how these are the most hyped BMW of all time practically. So it is, most of the population knows old BMW and they know E30, so everyone's an E30. So you see something like this and obviously that looks like an E30 as well, but it's really not. You go to the side views and they both have 4 doors, I guess. This is a bad example because I have a 4-door E30. But there's a lot of differences. I'm going to show you guys all these differences real quick. Starting at the front with the 525 E34, you can see the kidneys have a grille surround, painted surround. Going over to the E30, you do not have that. You just have the kidneys kind of placed in between the grills. There is no painted surround that the E34 has. On top of that, this is obviously not a very stock front bumper anymore and it's beat to hell. But you'll notice the E34s, the front bumpers do not have corners in them. You can see you have the 2 amber turn signals here. E34s do have fog lights, this bumper does not. But yeah, so you can just see the bumper shapes, but the main thing is the turn signals are not here. They're up by the headlights on the E34s. The E30s have no corner lights. That's another main difference with the front end. This is an early model E34, so it has a narrow grille. So it kind of does look a lot more like the E30s. The later models have the wide nose, which would look far different. Looks more like an E38 or an E32. So now another thing that's not different between these two, because that's an early model, is the mirrors. They call these the elephant ears, I believe. So you can see, same mirrors. Those are painted, these aren't. I don't know what E30s, you know, some might be, some might not be. Again, later model has a different style mirror on the E34s, so that's a difference there. But on these two, they are the same. So I'll give you guys that. Side views with the 4-door E30, obviously you're not looking at a ton of difference here. All BMWs are kind of the same. You got the black trim that kind of just splits the doors, black door handles, chrome window surrounds. Over the E34, chrome window surrounds, black trim. This car has side skirts, but some don't, so it's kind of the same. Gas door, obviously. Then the the Hofmeister kink, which is kind of the way the end of the back window kind of has that little, I don't really know, it's like the little, like, you know, curve that the back C-pillars kind of go into. Or maybe E30s don't have that, and this is one of the BMWs that don't. I can't remember, I'm not going to talk about that. If you're interested, look up the Hofmeister kink on BMWs. But otherwise, side view, E34s have this stupid lower door trim that these don't have, and for that is why E34 doors rust. You can see mine is starting to rust pretty good on the Calypso. It makes me pretty sad. That is a certain dock in the E34's tallies here, as opposed to the E30, because that sucks and it kills off a lot of the E34s. Rear end, here's the E30. We got these kind of obnoxiously big tails. This is a late model. Early models are a little different. Trunk lid is a little more curved, big obnoxious tails, and then kind of weird E30s are like, it's like a metal lower basin and then just a plastic guard, whereas on the E34 you come over here and it's just plastic full bumper and a flat back trunk. And then the difference with the E30 and the E34 is the E34's taillights are stepped, so you got the inner trunks and then they step up for the turn signals, step up for the turn signals. The E30 does not have that step up. It just has the amber right in the side of the tail. I honestly think I prefer the E34. A lot of people actually talk trash about the E34. They say these look kind of goofy and awkward and like an afterthought. I really don't agree with that. I think this looks like proper. I think that looks kind of goofy, but that could just be the inner E34 guy talking. Trunk space, E34. Pretty massive trunk actually. I got a whole sub back here and a lot of room for activities. E30 trunk has an air tank, but also a pretty big trunk. It goes decently far back there. E34 trunk's obviously wider, being a 5 series to a 3 series, but E30 is not that bad. So now let's get into the interior. So here we have E30 interior. And here we have the E34 interior. The early model E34, like the E30, has the cutout dash. I will say, the best thing about E34 as opposed to the E30 interior, these dashes do not crack. E34 dashes, I've had 15 of these cars, never had one cracked, except the 535, which is an early model 89, so it's a little bit older and it's been in the sun, so it's a little goofed up, but it does not crack like the E30s crack. E30s crack really bad. Aside from that, climate controls a little bit different. E34 doesn't have a check control like the E30. It does have the little thing here similar to the E30, but check controls were gone away with apparently for the E34s and so on. Light switch is different. Center console a little bit different. Window switches pretty much same spot. See, the seats are a much uglier leather, much cheaper leather. E34 has a significantly more high-end interior, comfort-wise, space-wise. It's obviously a 5 series to a 3 series. This interior on this car is super solid. You know, you touch things, everything's kind of sturdy. You know, center controls, all this stuff, window switches, this bottom pack here, all this. It's very like, the leather makes a lot of noise, but I'll go into the E30 and show you. The E30 is like a tin can compared to the E34. So just window switches, this whole panel moves around, all this stuff. I mean, it's not bad. It's just, you know, to say like, there is a noticeable difference if you're into two. The E34, everything feels much better put together. Everything in here feels a little more kind of, you know, loose and easy to break. Similar to kind of an E36 and an E34. E36 interior is garbage. I would honestly say the E30 interior is probably better than an E36 interior. E36 is just bottom of the crop when it comes to interior quality wise. E34 though obviously takes the cake over the lesser 5 series. E30 manual seats. I cannot attest to whether or not these have manual seats and auto, or if they're only manual. They probably have electric seats. E34s in America, only electric. And the coolest thing about E34 seats would be the electric headrest. Now that, for an early 90s, is insane. The best part of these old 80s BMWs is the clamshell hoods. Both the hoods open the same, which is such a rad feature about these old cars. But so anyway, like I said, my E30 has an M50. Otherwise, E30s come with M20s, they come with M42s. I believe M42. I think those are the only two options for an E30. But then you come over to an E34, again, this is boosted, M50, M50. So these cars share the same motor, but you can have an M20 E34, you can have an M50 E34, an M30 E34, an M60 B30, an M60 B40, and an S38. Oh, I guess E30 will come with the S14 if it's an M3. But anyway, a lot of motor options here, a lot of trim levels of an E34, and all better motors. The M20 E34, the M20 in this car, it's fine, it's good. Mine blew up, that's the only reason why I put an M50. But if you get that car, or that motor in this car, and E34s are 3,300 average curb weight. This car is about 2,900 average curb weight, or I believe around there, 28, 29. Significantly lighter car. The M20 is fine in this. In this car, it feels like a freaking snail. You do not want a M20 in an E34. You really, even an M50 in an E34 is kind of crawling. You could have the non-Vanos M50 or the Vanos M50. That's another option. With a turbo on it, crazy fun. But NA, it is a slow car. 540 is a pretty quick car. I got my 540. You guys have probably watched videos on that. If you haven't, check them out. That'll give you a good 540 experience. Engine bay space, you can see with this turbo, engine bay space in an E34 is insane. Even with the V8, it's a little more cramped, but again, bad idea, or bad example here because it's an M50, but you could just see it's pretty tight in here. Even with the M20, it's clearly just a much smaller car, much smaller engine bay. You can fit a lot of fun things in an E34 engine bay. So now that that's all taken care of, let's talk about drivability. The most important thing, what are you gonna use this car for? If you're gonna use this car for a luxury car, a daily car, E34 all day. Much better driver, much more comfortable. If you want I would call it a track car, a peppy little car, a go-kart, the E30 is the way to go. E30s are like go-karts compared to those. Those drive like boats. The E30s have steering racks. Those have steering boxes still, which is kind of like a huge difference in steering. This thing is very agile with the steering. The E34 feels like a bit like a boat. I don't mind it, but a lot of people do, and it is definitely a noticeable thing between these cars. I've talked about it in my previous E30 video. E30s are a bit like tin cans. You get in one of these, and then you go over to one of these, and it is a day and night difference, just how smooth things are, vibrations, rattles. E34s, you know, they're not perfect. They still have some rattles here and there for an old car, but they sound much more quiet and refined than this. I'm actually gonna show you guys. So I'm gonna start this up, and we're gonna do a little difference. This is a turbo 420 wheel on a Mustang car, solid everything, subframe, trans, motor, everything. This is solid motor, poly trans, stock, everything else. So here's a little idle test. Maybe you guys can pick this stuff up, maybe not. So here we're in here, it's idling. Again, M50. It's really gonna be hard to pick up E30 versus this car, but take my word for it. Absolutely zero vibrations, zero rattles, zero weird noises. This car is a straight pipe 3-inch from the turbo, and even the exhaust note itself, or the exhaust, is not that noticeable. There's a little bit of speaker issue because my speakers are goofed up, but I'm just gonna let you guys hear and not talk for a second. Just listen. In the E30, same motor, same engine mounts, softer trans. Let's go ahead and sit here and listen. So the rattles while driving are significantly more in the E30. You can't hear those while sitting. And it's probably gonna be hard to hear any of this, to be honest with you guys. But take my word for it. The vibrations I feel in my butt, and the vibrations I feel in the shifter, and in the tunnel, and there goes the air, are significantly more. I'm gonna wait for this air to come off and we're gonna come back. This would not be a fair test had this been a modified drivetrain and that not. That is a more modified drivetrain, and in the E34 it handles it significantly better. E30 is like a tin can, so if you're looking for comfort, go with an E34. Not to say the E30 is bad. It's not a you know, an actual tin can, but it is significantly more noisy, less refined in here. But let's take these things for a drive, give you guys a quick little glimpse, and you know, talk about the driving really quick. All right, so we're whipping around the E30, and of course, I don't think driveline noises are going to be picked up very easily between the cars. But the E30 itself makes about, probably 400 horsepower less, 350, and feels more like a race car than the E34. It's a very aggressively driving car, if that makes sense. fantastic. The rack is really a noticeable improvement to a box for sure, but at the same time, I'm getting air from the firewall on my feet, warm air. So I don't know what's up with that, but the engine bay is clearly not cut off from the interior as nicely. It is a swap, so we do have a few things that might be causing that. But I hear the trans. Exhaust is quieter than the E34, but I hear that pretty much. Wind noise, I'm only going 50, but if you actually get these things up to speed, 60, wind noise is decent. Not horrible, not on top by any means, but it's there. You hear road noise. Yeah, you just hear a lot more. It hits bumps a lot harsher, given its bags, but it's also very like you know, I can move the steering wheel and the car wants to move like wants to take you off the road for the most part. It's a significantly more, I would say, connected to the road feel. The E30 feels more connected to the road, but the E34 does not by any means feel not connected to the road. I've talked about that in the E46 versus E36 video. Basically a modern versus old thing. This is just you're truly in a car that is made of thinner metal and has less sound deadening. So you just feel like you're kind of on the road more than you feel that in the E34. But still fun to drive. I can't really compare too much just because this car is, you know, different shifter setup, different trans, different, you know, NA motor, but still a stock interior car to a stock interior car. So I don't want to go too long on this. E30, if I had to put the drive into a few short sentences, a few words, not entirely comfortable, feel very on the road, very connected to the road, good steering feel, very peppy and agile in the corners, noisier, more vibrating. That's pretty much it. I would say that's fair. I think that's a fair description. I'll get in the Calypso and I'll try to talk about, I'll do the same thing. So I'm gonna go home, hop in that, and then we'll talk about that. All right, so we're back in the E34 now, and I just have to say, going back to back between the two cars, it's like impossible. Like the driving is so much different. The clutch point on the E34 to the E30, the brakes, it's like the shifting, it's really hard to like transfer over like right away. It's a big difference in the two cars. I think the best way to put it between these two cars, the E34 takes much more power to make it a really intense, like fun car, whereas the E30, you can give it an M50 and it feels intense and fun and, you know, like a race car. E34 is just so luxury that even what my car is like feels smoother than, you know, an E30 with significantly less horsepower. But, you know, just driving, much louder exhaust, but it's really what makes noise on this car is like just my lathered up leather. Like the leather is really noisy in this car, I think. The seats just creak a little bit more. I have some broken things in here. This is a higher mileage interior and stuff, but at the end of the day, there's really no road noise. There's really not much drivetrain noise aside from me sometimes, you know, slapping the clutch pedal out too quick or whatever, and jarring the transmission, because like I said, it's on stiffer mounts. The C34 has decent interior noise, mainly I think the rubbing of like this armrest on the center console, and that's kind of the main thing. But it's a much more refined feeling interior. Everything feels nicer and stuff. So to put this into a few words, let's see. Comfortable, quieter, less connected to the road, you know, a little bit less fun. It just doesn't feel like a race car. That's what I really do love about the E34 is I can have I can make it a lot of power. I have a big turbo car. But at the end of the day, I can get in this car and drive it like it's a stock E34, and it does not feel that much different than a stock E34 with a lot of modifications done. These cars handle stiff mounts, big power really well. They're just really solid. They handle everything really good. The throttle bearing on this car makes a lot of noise. It is what it is. So that's window up, window down. Let's get some boost. All you hear is boost in this car. You know, the exhaust stays pretty quiet. Get it up to 60, and the interior is pretty darn quiet, I must say. E34s are fantastic cars. I love this car so much. So, E30, E34, which one are you going with? The answer is obviously with you guys, you know? You might like the styling of the E30 better, you might like the E34 better. These, in my mind, are truly two different cars for two different purposes. Well, you know, the same purpose, but at the end of the day, right? You want a comfortable, dailyable. They're both dailyable, they're both reliable. M20 is a good motor. All the motors that come in the E34 are good motors. It's not really a matter of reliability. They all have the same, you know, they might rust, they might have body damage, the brakes, suspension, all that stuff is pretty much the same. You gotta weld on your coils on this, weld on your coils on that, blah, blah, blah. E34 is the better daily because it's more comfortable, less noise, more solid of a car. It really does feel like a really nicely put together car. E30 feels much cheaper, as you'd expect, a cheaper car, a lower trim level, but the sportiness of the E30 really makes it a fun car. The weight difference, that feels like a boat compared to that. The steering is heavy compared to that. It is just a better driver's car in my idea. Not a bad driver's car, but this is a more fun car. There's a reason more people track these than those. Set up right, E34, fantastic. Set up right, E30, fantastic. Set up wrong, both might not be fantastic. But at the end of the day, they're both great cars. You like what you like, but this is just kind of me wanting to touch on both of these cars, how I feel about both of them, some key differences between both of them. Hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys learned a little thing about the differences of these cars. I hope maybe it helped you make up your mind which car you want. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you want to see with these cars. See you in the next one.